All right, welcome back everyone to Block Party number 23, and welcome to the next segment, which is A World Beyond Money with our Bret Minster full of it, aka Bret Warshawsky. So welcome everyone, and Bret, please take it away.
Cool. Well, thank you, Mr. Jamin. I really appreciate it. Hello, my Block Party tribe. It's good to be with all of you. One of my favorite spaces to interact with. So my name is Bret. Yes, indeed. Bret Minster Full of It is my homage to the late, great Bucky Fuller. I'm already in an infinite reality game, so I've got to have a character. And myself and a young woman named Marina are kind of co-stewarding, co-creating an idea for something called World Beyond Money, which is an alternate reality game. And we've been doing some experiments the past few weeks, going through a co-creative process with people to create some content based on what you love to do, whether you like to write or create graphics, and to learn about this idea of the alternate reality game and to feel into what a world beyond money might look like and feel like. And I have a little process I created for that, which has been a big experiment as well. That's not something I'm used to facilitating. So as we were just mentioning, I think everyone here is already on the call from just from a minute ago. Today, I only had an hour due to some circumstances. So instead of doing that process, which takes at least an hour, and because we're kind of experimenting with the block party and the conversation and all that, I feel like I would like to have a conversation with everybody on a specific meme or idea of a world beyond money, rather than really get into what an alternate reality game is and some of that creative process. I will share, the idea of an alternate reality game is to act as if, or to simulate something, to create an alternate reality. I mean, it's about collective intelligence, collective imagination. The history of alternate reality games is interesting. They've mostly been used for marketing and entertainment pieces. In 2007, there was an alternate reality game called World Without Oil, which super inspired me. It was one of the first examples of what the guy who created it called a serious game, or a humanitarian version of an alternate reality game. And normally when I go through this process, I share a video, a 7-minute video that gives a recap of the World Without Oil and what that was about. And it gives people a really good idea of what they were able to do in 2007, and gets me really excited about what we're capable of in 2020 in an even more powerfully networked community and global tribe, and with the technologies we have. Perhaps at the end of this hour, I might even show that video to give some people here an idea about where we're heading with this alternate reality game. So alternate reality games also, from many standpoints, I think a lot of people would probably perceive and understand that really since the 20s, maybe 1920s, the propaganda and maybe Nazi Germany. I'm not an expert in history, but I'm just saying, in the modern age of communication and information, really starting back then to some degree, and then of course going back to the churches and all that. So of course it's a bigger story. That really we've been playing alternate reality games for a very long time. And the governments and the corporations, everyone is actually always playing an alternate reality game. So in a big sense, it's nothing new. It's just naming it and putting it out there. And of course, there is this more modern genre that is usually based, again, on marketing and movies and creating rabbit holes for people where it's an adventure. And an alternate reality game is simply about transmedia, and bringing the audience and the characters all into a blurring of lines, so to say, where the participants in the audience are also co-creating the story as it unfolds, because it's an alternate reality, it's a game, and it uses anything from blogging to emails and all this transmedia stuff. And the famous tagline for an alternate reality game is that the players all say, "This is not a game." So it's kind of this idea that it's kind of a game, it's not a game, and that there's lines blurred. And the famous line is that there's puppet masters. I mean, I'm not even using that negatively, really. It's just that there's different roles when you create an alternate reality game. So the people behind the curtain, so to say, are creating the story and the obstacles for the players and the rewards and all that. Of course, in the propagandist perspective and all that, the puppet masters are not so nice, not so nice and enviable. But it doesn't have to be that way as far as what an alternate reality game is. The puppet masters can be designers, they could be transparent, et cetera, et cetera. So World Beyond Money is actually a prequel to an idea that I was working on, which is going from an alternate reality game to an infinite reality game, which has different rules and different ideas of medium and media and how we might co-create compared to what we've seen with alternate reality games. So that's a little bit of background about alternate reality games themselves, what inspired me, this world without oil, wanting to create art and activism and use these different forms of media and storytelling to really act as if, for my excitement, a world beyond money. So in 2007, when they did World Without Oil, the question and the scenario was that we've reached peak oil and there's going to be a scarcity of oil. So people were responding to the game as if that was happening. And they were reporting, for instance, we've changed our lifestyle. We've started riding our bike to work. They were making mock news broadcasts saying gas is up to $10 a gallon and people are arguing. There was people who actually started growing their own food in their front yard in playing the game. So it was much more than just a simulation, really. And I believe we can go way beyond this idea of even just being a simulation. I think we can leverage the game and the fun to be much more than even a simulation. It's more like, in order to bridge this end goal that we want, whether it's food security, ending poverty, ending racism, all these things, we don't really need to perhaps, and we can all talk about this, we don't need to perhaps simulate that, we can just do it. And that's what we're all doing anyway. And perhaps maybe that's what will be different about an infinite reality game compared to an alternate reality game. So the first thing we're going to do, which I like to do in the process normally, and some of you have already shared this before, so you can skip if you'd like, and of course no one is obligated to talk, is normally before I gave any context about an alternate reality game or a world beyond money, I just like to go around in a circle and ask people, just straight out, free association, what does a world beyond money mean to you? So people answer that in many different ways, as you suspect. There's a lot of energy and emotions and feelings around money. It's very unifying to that degree. It's very cross-cultural to that degree because of the ubiquity of money and capitalism and exchange and transactional consciousness. It really pretty much reaches almost nearly the whole planet, save for, of course, some indigenous cultures and that are remained intact or stuck to their principles, but it's a very unifying subject, so to say, and very divisive at the same time. So it's obviously just an interesting topic in general. And there's a lot of ancestral wounding and personal wounding around everything related to money in many different ways. So the conversation we're going to have today, I'm very excited and interested to hear about what a world beyond money looks like to people as far as the solutions, you know? So for me, a world beyond money looks a certain way and can be a certain way is an actuality because of the very projects I'm involved in and projects that my friends are involved in and projects that are here, solar radiation management, ending poverty, growing food. What does it actually look like, a world beyond money? Do we have hyperloop trains? Do we have eco villages? I want to hear everyone's really excitement, wildest dreams, really no limitations necessarily more than what's wrong or what's going to be hard. I'd also like to hear people's heartfelt like dreams as well around what a world beyond money actually looks and feels like. Is it like Zeitgeist? Is it like Star Trek? You know, is it not futuristic? Is it a mix of indigenous and futuristic? That's the kind of conversation I want to have today. So with that, I'm going to open up the space. I think before we get into like what does it look and feel like, let's just do a round to see if anyone would like to share, like just stream of consciousness. What does a world beyond money mean to you? And hopefully Jamin will bring us one of his awesome story metaphors, which he did last week, which was really fun. Is there anyone who would like to chime in? What does the world beyond money mean to you? This is more personal feeling wise compared to solutions and things.
I would love very much to start. Can you hear me okay?
Go ahead, man.
Yeah.
Yep, rock on.
Oh, yeah. I've lived without money on several occasions, and I pray that we all learn to live without money, because money is what really messed things up. Um, but then the guy with the money would never agree with this, because the ones that have don't understand what it's like to have not. But so let's just go back and say that the ones that have the money, thank God for them, because they can make things happen. And if they make things happen for the rest of us, then we should all be grateful. So I'm not against money. I just think that I'm against the distribution of it. So it's been very, very dear to my heart, this subject. That's why I'm glad to be here. Um, we're going to always have to be able to distribute the stuff. So it doesn't take money to distribute the stuff. It just takes distribution. So we have to put that in the right hands. I found that whenever I live without money, um, all of a sudden, and I'll get specific on this, I've lived with a community in the woods. They call it the Rainbow Gathering, and you're not allowed to bring any money, because they know if you do have money, you'll get into exchange, and they try to avoid that. Well, the people that get into exchange are smart. They bring candy bars. So they exchange candy bars for whatever they want. And I know a guy that will drive 2,500 miles just to spend 2 weeks in the woods and trade candy bars for crystals. So I don't know. I don't want to go on and on and on. I spent 8 months in India without money. So if you'd like to ask me any questions of what it's like to be without money, I'm here for you. I have one more thing to say. Whenever I'm at a rainbow gathering, I go to the kitchen, because I know there's no money. And a lot of times there's no food. So if you're in the kitchen, you don't have to worry about it. Thank you. I love you all. Thank you so much for having me here. Namaste.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think we definitely would like to keep asking and including you in this conversation specifically related to your experience. So we'll see how that comes up, and I hope you're back again the next week or the next week, or maybe even we'll have a conversation one-on-one as part of this whole effort anyway, because you have a very obviously interesting experience in India there, especially, that I would like to tap into and have the world hear more about and be able to get really deeply into. I'm going to call on the next person in a second. I just wanted to share quickly. It was interesting, Sanatana, how you mentioned, guy bringing candy bars. For me, that's like bringing money, actually. And the reason I say that is I'm really into this idea of a gift paradigm. There's a book written by a woman named Genevieve Vaughn, who is a kind of feminine perspective on these things, and she called it a gift paradigm because it was based on gift giving, which is meeting people's needs. And in understanding that, that's actually a gift paradigm. So even exchanging things and bartering, what she points out, which I happen to resonate with, is that we've mistaken the flaw, let's say, or the injustice in the paradigm, and we always point at money, but it's actually exchange that is the big issue from a feminine gift-giving perspective. Because if whether we're exchanging money or crackers or candy bars, there's not a gift-giving mentality of satisfying needs. And I love how you mentioned distribution, because that's where we get, for me, into the technological and beautiful things about science and mathematics and technology and social architectures that can be in service to humanity. So it's more about gift giving in an optimal way of how we produce new things and how we share them, which I believe does need efficiency, optimization, and a good deal of thought, so people do get what they need in a way that is fair, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, amazing. I hope you can just share more in the flow of the conversation and relating to people and adding more value. So thank you for that. And does anyone else want to share what a world beyond money means to them? Deborah, go ahead. Jamie, I got you next.
So what I think of, and this is not a complete, I don't have a complete picture, but I think of a world without money where we relinquish our attempt to own nature and our attempt to own what is, if I may say, God created, God gave to humanity for our home and for our sustenance and our place to live. And we somehow want to stake a claim and take ownership of that, and then sell it and then barter it with each other in order for you know, to establish our security, our place in the world, and control. So when I think of a world beyond money, I think of where all of this is just freely available and freely shared, and where we are concerned for caring for each other and making sure that everyone has what they need, more so than ownership and staking the claim of what it should not really be owned.
Thank you, Deborah. Jamie, go ahead next. I'll just ask everyone if you can remember when you're shared, and I'll do this myself. Just say I'm complete or I'm finished, or just some way to alert us that we can call on the next person without cutting you off. It's not mandatory, but if you can remember, it's just helpful. So go ahead, Jamie.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, Jamie.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Bret. You know, I read a few books, and I've been a seeker. I prefer to call it a finder these days. But I picture a highly evolved civilization, and I've read about a highly evolved civilization, and I will mention the book, which was book 4 of Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, A Highly Evolved Civilization, and I always thought I wouldn't be around for it. And I also thought that maybe I missed it because I missed the mystery schools of the past. And now I find that I'm in the biggest mystery school of my life right now in 2020. And it's absolutely crazy and absolutely beautiful. I picture the world without money, or the world beyond money, a world of trade, a world of talents, a world where we don't take our, like I went to university because I said, oh, I might have wanted to be a singer or an actress, but I did the fallback, you know what I mean? Just in case. And I got so busy with the fallback that I never pursued my joy. So I think now is the time where, you know, I'm 43, I did the whole thing. I did the fairy tale, marriage, university, blah, blah, blah. And I'm reborn like a child. And I'm going to create this world beyond conditioning. And this world beyond money, where I can say, and I'm doing it now with my community. I mean, my neighbor just cut my hedges. I moved into a new home, just got a divorce. They just were cutting their hedges. They cut my hedges. I had no idea how to cut hedges. I do art. I do a lot of wonderful things. And I think trading is the way to go. Just local, just trading our gifts and talents, following our joy, living in our joy, following the breadcrumb trail of what brings us joy, and then just trading on a local level, and everyone will have what they need. And for the first speaker, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, for the ones that, you know, he never really had money, I was blessed to leave my divorce with the means to get a new house. But I hope to use these means, if I ever had, you know, whatever I have, I will give away. If I were ever a best-selling author in 47 languages, which is my dream, I'm taking a year off, whatever, or being involved in this group, what a gift. Whatever this becomes, I will gift whatever profits become of it. I will gift everything that I have for the joy that I'm following of sharing our talents. And everybody has a different talent. Thank you, I'm done.
Thank you, Jamie. I just want to give a little shout out to Jamie and Ron here for joining today. They've been in my Facebook group for World Beyond Money and helping me be creative and creating some graphics and things. So thank you so much, guys, for joining in this space as well. I really appreciate it. Is there anyone else would like to share what a World Beyond Money? Dana, go ahead.
Hello, hi, everyone. So, you know, like there are a lot of advanced star systems in the universe that live at whole different levels of consciousness, different dimensions of consciousness, and these are worlds without money. They are so beyond money. It's just, and it's not even about exchange there at all. It's just like this, it's just love and everyone like about growing in love and expansion and using whatever gifts that they have, but it's just a whole different reality. And I can't totally describe it, but I know that I come from one of those systems. So to me, a world with money is the unfamiliar thing. Like I feel in this world like lost and like, why do we have money? Because I come from that other reality where it's a world without money. It's like, that's the natural thing. And I've just never understood this world with this huge emphasis on this money thing and all the work and the way that society agrees that we have to spend all of our lives working. And it just like never, it just made complete nonsense, like no sense to me. So there are many, many other advanced civilizations that have evolved to be a world without money and without any kind of exchange economy. It's not even a reality. So that's my personal perspective, is kind of like coming from that and feeling here is kind of strange. So that we have to like evolve. That'll be a next step in our evolution, to not have to rely on that type of system anymore. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you, Dana. I'm going to throw a word out to everybody. Yeah, Dharmendra, go ahead.
May I share next whenever you get done with what you're going to say?
Yep, no problem. Yeah, if anybody wants to go next while someone else is talking, you can either put a note in the chat and I'll pay attention to that, or you can use the raise hand function, or you can just do this and I'll keep in my mind who's after who. I was just going to say, I'll throw a word at everyone. In the project I'm part of, we've renamed economics to organomics, ORGAN, so organic, life affirming, organomics instead of economics. So I like to use words myself to start changing conceptions and changing possibilities, because for me that is a way of grounding something, so to say, or to making it real. Like I don't even do economics anymore. I do organomics, right? Like there's all these ways to act as if and to change the actual circumstances. Go ahead, Dharmendra.
Thank you, Bret. Hi, everybody who I know here and those of you who I don't know. I'm Dharmendra. I had the, I guess you could say, great fortune of participating for 4 or 5 years back in the 80s in an experiment with 5,000 people where we created a city where we actually did have no money, no crime, no drugs, no violence. And it actually worked. And it's kind of like what Dana's hinting at, but actually the step in between where we actually have to do it here on this planet. And it's actually possible. And a couple of things about that. One is knowledge needs to be free. Whatever knowledge is about, we don't need to have issues anymore about intellectual property, that anybody who has knowledge, it needs to be contributed to a common pool. As far as exchange goes, no needs, because you can set up central places that serve vegan food 24/7 to all the different type, and everybody's contributing to this to this reality. Whatever your skills are, whatever you love to do, you do it. And sometimes you have to do things according to need, maybe not so much according to want. But when everybody's in that kind of a space of no violence, no drugs, none of these things that are abusing the human condition, then all of a sudden everybody's just trying to always figure out the best way, and the creativity comes out very powerfully. And in the beginning, you're going to have a couple of really big fish, is a way to say it. No offense to the fish. I'm very, very vegan. I don't want to be speciesist, but I think this is a good way to use the word fish. Really big fish that can begin to start this process. Once that process was started, though, it became very self-sustaining very quickly. And we were able to do all our own farms and set it up and create all our own roads and everything. Once that got going, it was self-sustaining. It took a while, it took a year or two, and it took I think it was $60 million or something was the total spent just to get the infrastructure for 5,000 people to self-sustain. And the way I see it, if we really want to move into a world without money, that's a realistic way that's actually been done already and actually works. And I could see these villages starting, like, I guess you would call it, I mean, something like an eco village, but even a little bit more than that, because it's a town, it's a city, it's a small city of like around 5,000 people could start happening all over the world. That would be an actual realistic way to start permeating the world, like, you know, with a positive, the opposite of what a cancer is, just but spreading something positive, not a disease, but a in-ease or a plus, whatever you would call it, whatever the word is, there's no word for it yet, but something that would spread like that. And so to me, took me a while to catch up with this idea, like months and months since I've been attending so many different Zooms and stuff. And my emphasis is always on we got to wake up first, which I'll still stick with, but in this I'll stay with the subject and just say right now, that's how I see it realistically, as a way it could actually happen, where we could actually make it, bring it into reality. Of course, the trick is to find those big fish, and then all the, I mean, I think there's already the people that would go for this. I think they're already there because they're everywhere, all over the Zooms everywhere. And I know that for every 10 you see on Zoom, there's another 100 that are interested and would want to do it. So anyway, that's just a little seed thought there to implant, because it actually comes from real experience, and it really worked. Unfortunately, because we were so you know, about consciousness development and peaceful living, it was very offensive to the government, and so it all got shut down by the government. And the guy who let it got, you know, thallium poisoning. There's a whole story behind that I'm not going to go into, but you know, so it's tricky. At the same time, you've got to have certain you know, things in place in order to avoid coming up against, you know, because the government doesn't like you know, these terms like self-sustaining and independent and free thinking, and all of a sudden you're going to get, oh, what are you doing? You're avoiding our, you know, control mechanisms, and then you get a lot of interesting stuff. So you have to know what you're doing in order to do this. So it's not like I just know that it's possible if it's done in the right way, and it's very realistic, especially with the technology we have as far as the knowledge, and knowledge not just for knowledge's sake, because we all love to become more informed, but also knowledge to spread around, methods for terraforming. We did terraforming also, and turned, you know, canyons into beautiful sculpted, you know, riverways and things. We did all kinds of stuff. There was all the latest technology back then in the early 80s. And so all of that's there now, even more accessible. And so that's a lot what I mean about free knowledge too, is that everybody has access to everything it would take to transform whatever environment we occupy. So, and like I say, then once we have set up all the farming and everything, then it's easily as far as feeding people, and also creating our own clothes. And there's different textiles you can use, and the information about how to do that, and, you know, whatever machinery is needed. So it is possible. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Dharmendra. I'm going to call on Jeff and Benjamin in 1 second. I'm so glad you reminded me that you had that experience. You told me once before, but obviously it slipped my mind just in all the conversations and everything, but it's super, super important. It's something I want to have another, again, like these focused world beyond money sort of conversations with people like yourself and anyone who can have a focused conversation on specific aspects. It's just dawning on me as a new thing, because this is all emergent. I'm like, oh yeah, what you guys did there was spectacular. I saw the documentary as far as manpower and ideology and passion, you know, until it went sour a little bit, but it was certainly a great freaking example. And my little note is, as I mentioned, for me, World Beyond Money is a prequel to this vision I have called Togetherland. And for me, Dharmendra, Togetherland is my sort of offering answer to how to get beyond the government, let's say, coming in, or those things happening, because I'm looking at making it more of this infinite reality game. It's almost one gigantic production set, you know, where each of these nodes and eco cities are kind of locations, quote unquote, and sets in a big production. So I feel like through creativity, this is where I call it occupying the imaginal realm rather than occupying Seattle or occupying Zuccotti Park. I think as a collective, personally, we need to get way more creative, like super courageous, funky, like outside the box is for like children. It's like a moonshot is for kids. I think we're going to have to get super, super creative. And I think we're getting there. I think we're capable of playing a game of chess that is on a, let's just say, spirit level for me, that can't actually be stopped. It can only be stopped by its own blocks, like rather than some external force, whether it's money or governments or whatever. So I think we actually are getting closer to having some of those solutions, and then therefore possibly attracting some people that want to be those kind of philanthropists, in order to catalyze something and understand why they're giving. We have, I mean, our project has a lot of answers to this, but so do a lot of other projects. So I'm super excited about that. Hopefully that will come back around or another time. And I'm just going to call on Jeff next. Thanks for listening, everybody.
All right, thanks. Yeah, as far as taking a step against the government, what I'm currently doing for my first step to go without money is converting all my fiat currency to Bitcoin. I know most people would consider Bitcoin money, but the IRS doesn't. They consider it like a collector's item. And so it's also unconfiscatable. If you know, the US government confiscated gold in the 1930s. So it prevents being confiscated. Your money, you become the bank, so your money's no longer in a bank account here in America. When you open a bank account, you have to give your social security number, so they have your taxpayer ID, and they can just confiscate your money. So it prevents all that. And you know, there's a way of voting with your wallet, right? The government, of course, wants you to have fiat money. That's what makes the rich richer. You know, the rich buy assets, which go up in value, while the fiat currency goes down in value. As we're entering a recession here, they're going to do more rounds of quantitative easing, which just devalues the dollar, and pretty much all countries are in a race to devalue their currency. So it just makes the middle class poorer and the richer richer. So that's the step I'm taking, the first step. And obviously want to get to a world where no money would be the ultimate goal, but that's a realistic thing you can do right now. So I'm going to give that a shot.
Word. Thank you, Jeff. Super appreciate it. All very good points. Thank you, man. Benjamin.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this conversation. I wanted to bring up something Dana said about the idea of we're kind of conditioned to think that we need to earn a living, and at the same time we're told that we have a right to life. And this is something Silas has actually brought up recently. Just holding those two things at the same time seems kind of contradictory. How do we have a right to life and have to earn that life throughout our entire lifetime? How do we do those two things at the same time? My idea of a world without money is one where we don't have to earn our right to life, where we live in balance with all of the systems that we need to survive. And I just want to throw that out there.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. It's certainly a super important aspect of the conversation. I usually enter it through the portal of reconsidering value itself. That's a big topic for me. I find I get quite annoyed is a fun word. I don't really get that annoyed. It's a very interesting how people make assumptions and have been programmed around what value itself is, which for me is part of the conversation, like you're saying. And of course, Bucky Fuller had the famous quote about earning a living, which I totally resonate with. There's really, not only is it just silly anyway from a spiritual perspective, it's also really not even necessary from just a scientific, materialistic even perspective to keep it even on that level. Just by our intelligence alone, we don't have to earn a living anymore. Although that would probably end up falling on our faces if we don't have the spiritual and emotional dimensions. But totally great conversation. I hope we can weave that back in and maybe even talk about that as well. Does anyone else want to chip in kind of what, just on this general subject, world beyond money? What does it mean to you, or how does it make you feel, or any experiences as people have been sharing? Melissa.
Yeah, hey Bret, thank you for hosting your awesome work and sharing it with us. One of the things I think accompanies this is kind of reprogramming our mentality. Because when I was listening to Benjamin and some of you speaking, what I went to the who I used to be, you know, on that treadmill of going to work to make money, to pay a mortgage, to buy a car, to go shopping. And so I was in this system that I hadn't really questioned or even thought about, that was actually making me really miserable, because I don't need more clothes. I'm fine with a secondhand car, or actually I could ride my bike or walk to my studio. And so I think, you know, people are kind of on this treadmill still, although it's starting to fall, things are starting to fall apart. So people are, I believe, are starting to question, you know, why are we making money and what are we doing with that money? So I think the question is, you know, what kind of life do we want? What is our purpose here on this planet? And what is the future we want to imagine that will help us get off the money thing? So what does money serve, even if, you know, or not serve, in terms of the kind of life we deserve actually and should be living or want to be living? Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa. It's another a pillar conversation for me is redefining success. I'm not tooting my own horn. It's just like, this is what we've been working on. And my wife and I and our friends, like, this is our gig, like shifting the planet, like systems wise, everything from governance to finance, et cetera, like touching base. We're not experts in any one of them. I think if anything, our expertise will end up being creating a system that brings together all of the genius so we can actually co-create together in the most powerful way that the planet has ever seen. But one of our pillars is redefining success itself. That in game A, is some people call it the rivalrous game A, free market, capitalism, democracy, whatever word you want to put on it. Clearly, success, whether it started out like that or not, I know we can go back in history and look at things, but I think right now, success is pretty much defined as how much you can accumulate externally object driven, which is again masculine patriarchal type of energies. I don't need to put too much of a label on it, but just speaking like in that general terms, this is what success has become. And really, if we redefine success, as Melissa, as you're talking about, that's why we called it organomics. In an organic world of co-creation, success is defined as interconnection, as well-being. Whole people create whole systems in making sure everyone has what they need. So like, if that's the game you're playing, then all your behaviors are led towards that, are guided by that, compared to competition, scarcity, greed, psychopathy, and all these other things. So it's a beautiful pillar question, really, this idea of redefining success itself. And it's actually not that complicated. And psychologically speaking, like the topic of like, oh yeah, look what we all define as success: the trophy wife, the trophy car, the big house, all these things we all know. But fundamentally, yeah, it's about we've all bought into, a lot of us, and still, even though a lot of us are moving on, we still have these woundings or these energies in us. I fall back, even though I'm trying to be a pioneer. I still sometimes get triggered or sad that I don't have the ability to just go travel right now because I don't have a boatload of cash, or I can't buy my wife something, or make sure she has her tooth, whatever, you know. So it's real for everybody, you know. All of this is a process. So anyone else would like to talk about anything here on this topic? See,
I'm ready, but
anyone?
I don't want to take somebody else's time. There's 17 of us out there, and if I'm not careful, I would take all the time, and it happens to be your time in this moment, so I want you to decide, you know, when it's my turn. But I'd like to say a little bit about something. Go ahead.
Okay, I would say we'll clearly give you some space to speak, and I would just say try to do like, don't try to not do a 20-minute version, you know, but we'll clearly give you space to express yourself, and then you'll have another opportunity, so you don't have to feel that you have to say everything like at once. You can have another opportunity, and next week and later on today, etc. So it's kind of like in the middle path. Just try to honor that other people might want to talk, or it's hard to listen to somebody for extended periods, but of course we'll welcome you to talk some more. Jamin, did you want to share before we turn to also give us Sanatana some space? Sorry,
Sure,
I'm gonna
sure.
your name, the extra vowel in your name throws me off.
Right, totally. And also, Jamie, did you have your hand up? I didn't notice if you had your. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. So my sharing builds off my sharing from last week, where for me, a world without money is, well, let me first say what it's like to live in a world with money. It feels like an all-day Saturday Monopoly game. The sun is shining outside, the birds are chirping, nature is beckoning, but a bunch of us neurotic, dudes are sitting here, trying to get more of these paper tokens from each other to say, in the end, I won. And at the end of the day, we've wasted the day. All of us are feeling sick to our stomachs. We have headaches. We hate each other. We hate the game. We hate life. But it's like we got sucked in and our egos said, no, I'm going to win, 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 win. And I am just so sick of it. I just want to take out a Bic lighter, pour some lighter fluid on the game, the money, the pieces, the hotels, and everything, and just burn that baby down. And so I hate a world with money, and I long for the moment when I can torch it all, metaphorically, right? Don't call the FBI on me or anything like that. But and just go outside and live and enjoy and, heal the brain damage that's happened over 52 years of playing this nonstop all-day Monopoly game. Anyway, that's what I wanted to add. Thank you, Bret. Thanks, everyone.
Right on. Thank you, Jamin. I'm about to just call on Sanatana. I just want to put in this space here. Christopher asked, how do we straddle both worlds? It seems like we need to do straddling, quote unquote, while the new earth is on its way. So that's an awesome topic, interesting topic. So maybe we'll tune into that in a minute. So yeah, Chris was having trouble unmuting for some reason. I'm surprised. I don't know. That's odd, but yeah, see if you can keep giving it a shot. Sanatanana, go ahead, man. Knock it out of the ballpark, as they say.
Well, a home run, huh? Here we go.
Singles are, you know what they used to say. A walk is as good as a hit, so it doesn't have to be a home run.
As long as you get up to bat, huh?
As long as you keep the chain moving there.
Well, I got it, like I think, figured out. I've spent 50 years trying to figure out how to make the world a better place, a safe place for women and children, at least. The money's been a problem. I've had my share of it. I mean, I worked really hard, got some, and then gave it up and went without for a long time. And I had a choice between having it or not having it. And believe it or not, I think I enjoy not having it most. When you don't have any money, you don't think about shopping. You don't think about anything. But when you do have money, it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do with it? So I think it's kind of a problem. Unless you had enough of it to get everything you wanted, but then you would be jaded. Your life would be fucked because you wouldn't have anything to look forward to. So I think the wealthy people probably, they could do anything, go anywhere, have whatever, but they're still not satisfied. So money's not the answer. And what we're looking for is, it's a tough word, happiness, joy, something like that. But that's free. You can have that. That's easy for everybody if you know the trick. And the trick is just to be happy with what you have and not want anything outside of that. And one of the commandments in the Bible said that we're not supposed to be envious of others, envious of his stuff or his wife or whatever. So I think as long as we have envy, we're going to have an emptiness. And so we have to overcome that. So if we spent more time with personal growth and learning how to be content without the stuff, then we wouldn't need the stuff. And I think the earth will provide enough stuff for everybody. So maybe it's a training program that we need to help everyone realize that they don't need their mother's milk. A child will not give up that titty, until, you know what I mean? It's warm and it's close to mom and it's yummy. And you have to just pull the kids off the tit. So maybe the earth is going to have to pull us off her tits for a while, because I think we've taken way too much oil. I'm going to stop at that point. Go ahead.
Right on. Thanks so much. Yeah, I mean, I was just talking to my wife about this yesterday. As I was saying, to be transparent, I'm as this as a visionary and like all of us new paradigmers, I'm still literally working on that myself. I had some revelations yesterday just talking about, I said to my wife, you know what, this still comes down to want for me. If I want something and I'm not happy with what I have, I'm suffering. Like Buddhist, Jesus, whatever we want to call it, like it's money, this, that, the other, they're all like ripples and manifestations of the more existential sort of core discomfort, like, and dis-ease, speaking for myself, that I feel, you know, that I'm having, that I'm going through and shedding these things. So I really appreciate you bringing that into the field, really, that quite frankly, that feels like the question at hand ultimately. So it's not the banker's fault, it's not this fault or money's fault and blah blah blah. It's all of ours journey to 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 that kind of contentment. And the last thing I'll share on this note is the last year or so I've been working with a belief. So I use beliefs as meta programs, as people like Chaos Magic would talk about. So I don't necessarily believe in beliefs. I use beliefs as a tool. Like, what if I believe this? What will happen? If I believe this, what will be my reality be like? Or what will I experience? And I've been working with the definition of abundance is having what you need when you need it. Compared to a lot of the new paradigm and this, to me, phony stuff about abundance. If we have abundance, everyone has everything all the time. And it's like, you get everything, law of attraction, abundance, 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 abundance. Like, I'm not really anti that or anything. I just know I've been shifting my own thoughts around that and thinking, what if it's getting what you need when you need it? And really, I don't decide what I get. Life gives me what I need when I need it, or God or the universe does. And that's not always negative or positive, like getting sick or losing a loved one or breaking up with someone or hitting the lottery. Whatever it is, life is giving you what you need when you need it. And I've been just practicing, like, is that really abundance for me? And then prosperity really is the ability to share that abundance that I have. So that's just some stuff about how I've been kind of looking at things, which goes aligned to what you shared, I think, about this getting what we need when we need it is really a true abundance. So, all right, I'm going to call on Danny and then Christopher. Go ahead, Danny. And then Sophie.
Hi. So I just wanted a little note on that too, because I recognize that life gives you what you need. It doesn't give you what you want necessarily, but it gives you definitely gives you what you need. And you know, like the abuse that people undergo from being under the control of a deliberately perpetrated monetary system, I think is what, you know, is the trap. It's a means of controlling the masses, keeping them asleep, stopping them from progress. So whatever the next thing is, even in transition, it's, you know, it's a process of liberation so that we can start to rely on our skills, our internal systems, and the relationship we have with the universe who supplies everything, you know, in accordance to what we put out. So thank you.
Thank you, Danny. How about Sophie?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Happy to be here. Yeah, I just wanted to comment on what has been happening and transpiring in my own reality, and I'm just noticing how much poverty consciousness there is out there, and one of my passion is to help people redefine what wealth is for themselves, because I have noticed that there is an emotional greediness around money because of what people define as wealth or being wealthy, and we've been so conditioned and trained to look for that wealth outside of ourselves. that I run into so many people who have money and have the means, but they are stuck in poverty consciousness and have a really, really hard time exiting out of it, and then end up just hoarding money and believing that they have no money and they have no wealth. And I live in Nicaragua, and when I look at how people live here in Nicaragua compared to the US, there isn't any money, but there is so much wealth because of the self-sufficiency that people have here. They have access to water because most of them have wells. Anyone that has a little bit piece of land grows their own food, you know, and it's not anything, it's plantains and beans and rice. And so it's been really interesting to be in this energy. I've only lived here for less than a year, and to see, and it's really helped me also. As I've now for about a year, I made a conscious decision to be a minimalist in my lifestyle. And it's been quite it's been quite profound to be in this environment, and then just to see how very different wealth and sufficiency is here compared to what I was used to in the US, especially coming from California, which is the 7th wealthiest nation on the planet. So just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sophie. It brings up a few different things that I would relate to, which I'll just share quickly and then pass the mic along, which is the journey I've been on the last 7 or 8 years was very much experimenting in the gift economy and gifting and co-creation and philanthropy. And quite often people would say we were in poverty consciousness. And, you know, at first it kind of affected me or hurt my feelings. And then eventually I was like, are you kidding me? Like, poverty consciousness is having money and not sharing it. You know, poverty consciousness is not being happy and grateful for the things you do have. Like, and you're telling me I'm in poverty conscious because I'm not monetizing my passions or finding a scalable way to like make a dime off of everyone. So it was a very interesting journey. It reminded me. And I also love there's a group of people I respect a lot called Village Lab, who look at the commons and money and different things. And they used to have a definition called integral wealth. And they pointed out that etymologically speaking, wealth really is health and well-being put together. You know, wealth, well-being, and health. And that's, for me, what you're talking about, Sophie. Real wealth is your well-being and your health put together. And integral wealth is about all the ways, all the types of value, a healthy planet, people, your emotions, your psychology, your spirituality. And then money is only one slice of the pie that doesn't really have much of nothing more, nothing less. It's actually not more or less important or valuable than all those other lines of wealth and experience. So totally 100% aligned with that. And thank you for the work you're doing. It's important that people are having these conversations and starting to reframe wealth itself. And I know my wife, we often turn around very quick when we still have some pangs of the money thing, because we're like, wait a second, like, we're in love, like, we're actually happily in love, like, we're okay, like, we have each other. And like, there's so many people that we have time to do what we want, really, and go for a walk anytime we want, or call a friend anytime, or work on the creative things we love to do. So we're quite wealthy by any standard or any definition you want to use, except when we're in victim consciousness, you know, and start, you know, feeling sorry for ourselves because we have some kind of attachment, or as we were all talking about. I want to bring some of Chris's questions up here. Chris, if you can hear me, do you mind writing one more comment? Like, I know you left a few comments and questions. It's just hard for me to kind of host and read them all. Is there, out of the things you left, like, which question would you like us to most discuss, or whatnot? Or, I mean, they're all similar, so if there's one we can start with or something, just type it in there. Straddling both realities. All right, let's open up the space. before we, so Chris is saying straddling both realities, like a world beyond money and the world, let's say, as it is, quote unquote, and I'll use quote unquote because it's still a matter of perception. And how do we manage our basics without money, et cetera, et cetera. So we get the gist of the sort of inquiry, you know, transitioning, straddling, managing what feels like to be reality as it is compared to where we want to go. I'm sure I've got tons of my own thoughts on that, but I'll first open it up. Does anyone want to speak to, you know, this question? How do we straddle? What is it even? I want to, before we even answer like that logically, like I want to kind of go into what do we even mean by that? Like, why are we asking about I don't know. That's what's coming up for me, but I don't want to also dismiss the question itself. So if anyone feels inspired to maybe sort of address this in any way that feels good for them, we'll try to stay on that topic, so to say. But yeah, does anyone have an initial inspiration or like impulse around the straddling or managing things as they are?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
We're ready.
Okay. I first of all, I'd have to define the word straddle. And I think what I don't know what he means, but my take on it is that we're in a situation now where we can't just quit money. So we'll have to somehow figure out what we do next. And in the meantime, we're straddling. So if that's what he means, you know, what we're going to do between now and then when it's gone, because it's going to be gone all. The money is a bullshit trip. Like the guy said it was, and I don't know which of you, but it's fiat. It's just IOUs. It's not even real. So the only real thing is like food. Food is real. You know, like if you didn't have food, all the money in the world wouldn't help you unless you could get something to eat. So, and the same with your health. You know, if you're really sick and it's terminal, your money's not going to help you. So we have to forget about money and realize what's more important. I think the most important thing is love and acceptance. If we all had acceptance, we probably wouldn't want money. And if we had money, it really wouldn't matter. So I think acceptance is what we're really needing. And we can do that. We just have to understand each other, accept each other and get on with it. Now, as far as straddling the financial system, that's what I'd like to talk about next. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Or would you rather talk about the social system and how we could avoid money just by loving each other?
Well, I would say like just take 10 seconds to think about what you want to share, because it's a pretty hip group of people that are pretty aware of a lot of things like the history and the Federal Reserve and debt and all that. So yeah, I don't have much more than that. I mean, just say what you want to say. I mean, well, all I say is again is just
everything you said was a given. I don't think I'm in a room full of idiots. Okay. And before we go any further, the name Babaji is part of that, right? You see the Sanatan Babaji, right? So Babaji would be maybe a little more comfortable for me, and it's a title. And so everything that I'm about to say is coming from that position. It's a priest place. I'm not into money. I'm just into your soul, and I'm trying to liberate it. So let's say what I have to say about money right now. We should just get rid of it, but we can't. So what are we going to do with the money we have? I'll wait till you get back on the game again here. I see you're distracted.
Go ahead. I'm just talking to my wife real quick, but I'm totally able to just hear because I'm only going to be another like 20 seconds. So just go ahead, man.
The people that have the money. Oh, wait, I want to wait for him to get finished. I'm talking to him. I know that we're all in it together, but I don't want him to miss it. So if you want me to continue, just raise your hands.
Yeah, I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay, good. Let's go. I think the people that have the money are kind of worried about what are they going to do with it, because like it was mentioned earlier, the government could take it any second. You know, it could just be gone. You go to your bank account and there's nothing. So I would suggest you take that money and buy something real. And the only thing that comes to my mind is gold and silver. So if we all kicked in our money right now, let's say there were 3 billionaires out there right now that put all their money in gold and silver. Well, then we would get some crypto cash that represented the gold and silver, and we'd distribute that to the rest of the people that were willing to buy into the fund. Remember, there was something mentioned about the people who had the money could get the ball rolling. So those people with the millions or billions of dollars could get it going, and the rest of us could throw in what we have. But we'd have this big pile of real stuff, gold, silver, diamonds, rubies, whatever. And we would never be able to touch that stuff. That stuff would just have to sit somewhere, and it would be represented by crypto cash, and we would just move the money around electronically. That's going to be the next step. Then after that, we'll probably, when the electricity is gone, we won't be able to do that anymore. We'll just have to live on love. Now, I'm done, I hope. Let's see if there's any questions.
Well, I just want to clarify. You were saying that's the logical next step, not necessarily the best next step, right? Because I agree, for me, that's a shell game. Gold and silver is just another false idol. So you're not saying that's a good example. It's just what the next thing coming probably
Negative,
is.
negative, negative, negative.
No?
Gold and silver are real. All right. Every time someone gets married, they have to have like a little gold band on their hand. So that's a game.
That doesn't make it real, Babaji.
No, but it's just the thing that we do, you know. Come on. It's
I agree with that.
who the jewelers, right? Those guys have money and they buy gold, and then they con us into buying it from them, and they get money in the process. And I love having a ring that everybody looks at and says, wow. So if it's a diamond or a ruby or a garnet, whatever I can afford, I'm going to have it. So that stuff's going to be around forever. That's part of the vanity trip. Hey, listen, Jamin wants to say something. Come on, Jamin, come on in.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Yeah, hi, Babaji, it's Melissa. I'm on Jamin's computer. So, I think we have to give up the diamonds and the gold and the silver. First of all, we've hurt Mother Earth for a very long time, and mining her is also continuing hurting her. And we cannot get off this addiction to hoarding wealth if we continue hoarding wealth. And it seems to me that what we need to be doing is, and unfortunately we have to buy it, and we're not really supposed to own the land, but I think if we can buy lands and return, and as protectors of the land, not to necessarily develop it, but start tending it, taking care of it, growing food. I just want to, my own life with Jamin, we're growing our own food now, and it's plant-based. We haven't bought vegetables at the grocery store for 3 or 4 months now, and we're going to be going all summer, and we are growing our own food out of just little tubs. We haven't, because we don't own this place, but so there's small tubs on the deck. We share the food with all the animals. We give food to the banana slugs and the raccoons and the coyotes and all the birds, and we've got a raccoon right now up on the deck eating. So it's a menagerie as well. So this is a healthy thing to be doing. But if we plant more food, say we have land, we plant more food and we turn our lawns into gardens, we can start feeding the communities. So this is already getting us off money. And then electricity, there are lots of ways to create energy yourself without having to buy off the grid. And these are just 2 examples, but I think this is the direction humanity needs to take. Not, hoarding more silver. I'm wearing a beautiful ring. It's made of silver. This was gifted to me. But even I'm going, do I need to wear jewelry anymore? Yeah, it looks pretty on and all that. But do I want to continue hurting Mother Earth to mine this silver? I don't personally. So I'm simplifying. I think that the answer is simplify our lives. And really start about how can we become custodians of Mother Earth and help ourselves and the community around us in the process of becoming Homo Ahimsa, which Judy talked about in the previous segment. Thank you so much for listening.
Okay. I don't know where to go with this. I mean, I agree with you. Food is what it's all about, but I grew marijuana for the last 20 years. I know what it's like to grow, and someone that had a lot of money said to me one day, what would you do with all the money if you had it? And I said, I'd buy dirt. They couldn't understand what I was talking about. Well, I'll tell you, you go out there and try to grow something, it's not going to happen. Mother Earth is dead. So if you want to grow anything, you're going to have to need a lot more than just a shovel. So I'd say you're right on. We could spend our money, if you have any, on dirt. What does dirt mean? Well, there's stuff that you have to put in the ground. One of them is a fibrous stuff, like we call it cocoa. It comes off the coconut tree. You know, those coconut things, they shred it. That really makes the earth more happy. We need more earthworms. That's what we really need. You could bury newspaper, shred it, put it in the ground, and the earthworms will come. So we're going to have to restore Mother Earth. So if you have any money at all, use that to restore the mother so that we can grow our own food. So yes, I'm 100% with you on that. This other thing, thank you. The other thing I was talking about was if you had a bunch of money and you put it into gold, which is a real thing, at least you have something. And then this crypto thing, it would represent the pile of gold. You wouldn't have to carry your gold around with you, because if you did, the robbers would get you. So I'm still thinking about banking. Banking is necessary. So we're going to have to straddle. That was the original idea. So to straddle the system, we're going to have to take what we think is money, put it into something that's real money so we can get away from the fiat system, and then go into the electronic system for distribution. And eventually, maybe we could figure out another way to distribute the goods without the crypto cash. Now, if you want to ask me any questions, we should handle that on somebody else's time. Let's, you can get to me anytime you want. I'm at SANATANA BABAJI. It's pronounced Sanatan Babaji. And I'm here to get you out of all the problems you've shared. See, I didn't blame anybody. I love you all. We're going to get out of this mess. I've been working on it for 50 years. Come on. I think we're going to get it. And if you just cooperate and share and love me and let me love you, we're going to work our way through the catastrophe. Thank you. Oh, and let's thank Mark. If it wasn't for Mark, I wouldn't be here. God bless that man. I love him so much. He's going to save us all. This is for Mark. Thank you, Mark. And thank all of you for listening. Namaste.
Right on. Sophie.
So the only comment I wanted to make about this, about the money aspect of it, the person that came to my mind, a close friend of mine, his name is Rob Greenfield, and he's been an advocate for turning lawns into gardens. And he actually doesn't earn any money, doesn't make any money. Everything is donation based. Co-creation, collaboration. So check him out. If he has a million different ideas. If you don't have any space on how to turn whatever space you have into reclaiming food sovereignty and really nurturing and reclaiming this rapport that we have with the land. He's an awesome soul, and he's helping thousands of people really get out of that mindset that they need money to do it, because he doesn't have any, and he's been doing it for close to 10 years now, traveling all around the world. He just spent a whole year in Florida just growing. He didn't buy anything, just grew his own food and foraging. And he doesn't own any land. That's the beauty of it. He does not own any land. It's all based on support system. I met him because he was back when I still lived in San Diego, because he was looking for a place to house his tiny house. And that's how we connected, because I wanted to learn permaculture from him while I would share my space for him to, he ended up not living with me, living somewhere else, but just hundreds of different ideas on how to make it a reality if this is something you're interested in. Planting trees.
Sophie, can you put a link?
Planting trees in urban settings, fruit trees, like with many organizations in the US, to turn urban, especially food deserts, into nourishing nourishment rather than just And the reason why I connected so deeply with him is because I could never, especially in California, when I lived in California where water was so expensive, it just did not make any sense to me that I would water something. I would water my lawn and just to have a green lawn. It just didn't make any sense. I thought if I'm going to put water and give water to nature and Mother Earth, then I know she'll want to, create something. She'll want to create fruits and vegetables. And so, yeah. So I wanted to share that with you. Rob Greenfield.
Thank you, Sophie. If anyone can find a link for Rob Greenfield, or Sophie, if it's within your means, maybe you can drop a link to if there's a website or video about him or something like that in the chat, or maybe someone could find it anyway. Thank you so much for sharing. I love the diversity of this conversation ends up bringing in really, and ultimately positivity, as far as I'm concerned. I want to just bring it back, because we've sort of been starting to inquire into Christopher's question about straddling, and then he said, how do we then use money to get to the next level without getting caught up in it? So I'll just yes and to that and build on that point or that question. There's kind of two different questions in there to me. How do we then use money to get to the next level is one question to me, which some people have been talking about, and I'll give a synopsis of that. And then without getting caught up in it. And I think we've been talking about that as well, but the not getting caught up in it feels much more related to psychology, spirituality, frame of reference, maybe even neuropsychology, Maslow kind of stuff. Those are, I think, how do we not get caught up in the whole thing is how do you not get caught up in anything, craziness of anything, or drama everywhere, and kind of a timeless perennial sort of question, so to say. But also interesting how it connects with the question of money in general, and how do we use the money now, or as a transition, or to straddle. I think we've started addressing that, so to say. I'll give my quick 2 cents. Let's see what Christopher put. Doing a 40-hour, this Christopher's not able to talk at the moment, so he's been putting in the chat. He said, doing a 40-hour week seems to take away from all the things we need to bring about the new economy. We need time, capitals to make the transition. And thank you, Sophie, for putting in the link. I appreciate it. So Christopher, I'd love to have another conversation either next time or with you or another group, whatever it happens, to partially answer your question, how do we do that? At some point, some of us have to take a leap, I think. You have to, I'm using that lightly, have to. No one has to do anything. So part of my language there, but I'll just use it for the time being. We have to take a leap sometimes, a leap of faith or whatever it is. I mean, to use myself as an example, 7 years ago, I was on government support and a government rent because I went through the mental health system when I was younger. And I realized I had to make a change, or else I might end up my whole life just getting a little bit of money and in this apartment for the rest of my life. So I sort of went on this vision quest, follow your bliss, learn how to do this, learn how to trust life, learn how to trust this abundance that we're talking about, to trust the universe, whatever word you want to use. I think that's clearly, for me, a big part of, your question. In times of universal deceit, Orwell said, speaking the truth becomes a revolutionary act. So in times of universal disruption and greed, let's say, or psychopathy or money, acts of living in the gift economy, or doing what Rob Greenfield does, or quitting the job and learning to work with that fear and uncertainty is certainly something that is a path. It's not the only path, and there's a middle path to that, and there's things you learn along the way. And then using money differently is clearly something we can all do, which people have spoken to. So some people might have more than others now. You can buy, for me, the answer is buy land. Buy land, and buy things that help you grow food en masse and keep you warm and keep you connected through the internet and stuff like that. So we can continually build until money, that's why we've changed it to world beyond money instead of world without money. because it's kind of like transcend and include evolutionary steps. It doesn't mean things can't go quicker or be more trim tab, as Bucky Fuller said. Like, what are the little things that if we did those would turn the whole ship in a big direction? That's what a trim tab is, when Bucky Fuller said he was a trim tab, because that's the little piece of a big rudder. And that little piece actually turns the big rudder that turns the big Titanic. So he's always looking for trim tabs, you know, feeding the world, like Jamie, you know, the food sovereignty. These are like trim tabs. What are trim tabs? They could actually change a whole paradigm or change a whole scenario. So for me, it's about people that do have money starting to share it differently and spend it differently. Another piece is inspiring people with lots of money to consider new ways of sharing and investing, quote unquote, their money. I've gone bankrupt twice. I'm working on a screenplay now where 1 million people get together, and instead of complaining about debt and the 1%, we occupy debt, and we leverage 1 million people's worth of credit, and we worry about paying it back later, because we could generate about $500 billion if I did with the algorithms. And if Occupy stopped marching on the White House and everyone marched to the ATM machines together and bought land and bought aquaponics and put those into trust so they can't be repossessed, blah, blah, blah. So there's these creative, artistic, evolutionary ways, and dropping some of the dogma, like let's use credit cards. They're built in to fail. They don't care about bankruptcy. Why should we complain? Like, I would rather occupy debt with 1 million other people and get smart about it instead of going to the White House and complaining and trying to get people to vote differently. That's just me. I don't believe the government or any politicians or any gurus are going to save us. I think it's up to us to come up with creative ideas myself. So those are some of my interesting things, Christopher. It's not the best answer, but I think I'd love to share more with you sometime. I've got a bunch of our projects. You'd probably enjoy some of the documents we have, and I've got a little document about this movie. So the movie for the credit card thing is called Passion of the Heist. So, you know, don't build a home without it. I don't know, what else can you say? Pick a card, any card, you know? So I think it's all about getting creative personally, and transitioning. And I'm going to indulge one more thought. We've always used the idea of a rocket booster as the metaphor of money. So when a rocket goes into space, in order to reach escape velocity, it has these big boosters that get let go of once it reaches the atmosphere, and then it's basically going on its own through gravity and all that. So perhaps transitionally or straddling wise, we will find some of the right people to use money as a booster to get this rocket of a world beyond money and a world beyond violence and a world beyond poverty, get it off and running. And the most positive thing is we're not waiting for that. We're not waiting for the billionaire to do this. I know we're going to invite them to do this. I know it's part of my life's work, you know, to potentially help facilitate some people having a change in perspective and to use their money differently. I'm certainly interested in that. A rebirth of philanthropy, a new understanding of the power of philanthropy as a worldview. And I'm not talking about the Bill Gates version of philanthropy, I'm talking about a new understanding of philanthropy, even though it comes from where it comes from, which is a love of humanity. And I think that's totally possible, and it's something worth putting some attention to, but not all your eggs in that basket. We must all still continue to strive, like Salash is doing, all you growing food and everyone, we must continue to act as if it's up to us. And of course, we can maybe inspire people to do something different as well. So thank you everyone for listening. That was a little bit of a mouthful, but I thought I would share some of my perspective. Go ahead, Melissa.
Maybe we should call it species entropy so that we include all the other species and not just humans.
Instead of philanthropy.
Yeah, instead of philanthropy.
Species-anthropy.
Species-anthropy.
Species-anthropy, yeah. Well, I mean, I personally called my version spiritual philanthropy, and I specifically defined it as the love of love instead of the love of humanity, because the love of humanity is myopic and limited. So I'm with you. I mean, I called it the love of love. So there, it's kind of like meta. Like if you have a love of love, then of course you're going to be working with every being and everything. But I hear you. And that's why I called it that. A lot of people didn't like it because they thought I was putting the word spiritual as like an adjective in front of the word philanthropy. But I clearly wrote in a statement. I mean, if you just hear the word, they think woo-woo. But if people read my statement, they see what I'm talking about is something very specific, which is investing yourself into the field of consciousness, into love, and nurturing that nurturing the 0 point, because when we do that, everyone does what what they came here to do. When people have what they need, they produce things. They don't have to be forced to produce innovation or to share with each other. So thanks for your what's the word? Unquenching? No, undying devotion to all species, Melissa. I didn't want to use dying, but that's what came out. It's like an undying devotion to all species and all life. Thank you.
Unwavering.
Does anyone want to chime in? Did somebody want to say something? I thought I heard someone.
I was only going to say that I'm pretty much in agreement with the whole meaning of the last minute of conversation. But or I would just add that the anthropy part is the human part, not the fill part. The fill is the love. So it's a technical point. I don't want to detract from the theme that was established, but so I don't know what the correct word would be either, though. But the fill is the love, and instead of anthropy, it would be something that represents the whole ecosystem or infinite life, whatever how you want to characterize it. I haven't thought of the word though.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ron. Because philos, of course, and is love, and anthropos is person, human. That's right. I grew up in Greece on a Greek island, so I should have picked up on that. But thank you for sharing that with us.
All right. I have to go soon anyway. I feel like let's have a checkout. We're gonna not just stop here. We're gonna have final thoughts, but we'll kind of leave on a high note. I feel excited. I feel energetic. I feel really grateful for everyone having this conversation. Like I said, I sometimes do this other thing where we create something, and I chose to have this conversation. And I feel really excited. There were some new faces here, bringing a lot of new collective intelligence and collective wisdom and great questions. So I'm just super stoked. Always grateful to Jamin and Melissa for holding the space of the 24 hours for the 20th zillionth week in a row, coming to you live from like the year BC or something like that, 0 BC. They've been doing the block party. They used to have different names probably and a different network, but they've probably been doing a block party for like since the world began. So thank you guys for creating a really great community, great space. Thank you everyone so much for showing up and a lot of the different participants and participating and speaking up. I've really had an enjoyable time. I hope other people have too. And on that note, I'm gonna just go in a circle for anyone who wants to give a final conclusion, a final inspiration, or tie things together. Knock yourself out. I would say just try to keep it to a couple minutes or less, so there's enough spaciousness for everybody. So does anyone want to share a final thought? And it could be just a word or sentence. It could be sort of unrelated. It's just a way to say goodbye for this episode anyway. It doesn't necessarily have to even be about the subject.
I'll say thank you. Thank you, everybody. I'm always astounded when I come to these rooms. It's like, I don't know how much more blowing my mind can handle, but thank you.
I just want to say namaste. And thank you for having me. And just know that I'm available to any of you anytime, either through my phone or my email, and hopefully someday in person. So just keep that in mind. One day we'll all get together and live happily ever after without money. Namaste.
And my final thought is it really feels to me like we're a bunch of prisoners in some giant maximum security prison. And, and it's like the afternoon break. So we're at the far end of the baseball field, smoking grass, passing around a joint, and we're planning a prison break. We're planning to break out of this prison of a world with money. So anyway.
That's what the screenplay is about, my friend. Passion of the Heist, Ocean's 11 meets it. We're gonna mishmash all of them up until we're like gliding around the planet, like plotting, scheming, creating, all in the name of love.
Beautiful, beautiful.
But
Thank
a
you.
little subversiveness never hurt anybody. Sometimes you got to get cheeky, you know? Well, no one knows more than Jamin. You're going to be my go-to anyway. Wait till we get really going.
Did I hear you say all in the name of love?
Yeah, all
That sounds like a record that would make it to the top 10.
It does sound like a record that would make it to the top 10. That's for sure. Anyone else like to check out?
I wanted to comment on, there was something that was written and said stuff would always have value and the stuff must be secured. Stuff only has value because we use stuff to assert power over others and over each other. So stuff only has the value we give it. And so when we're ready to exit out of the paradigm of asserting power over others and stepping into the paradigm of power together, then stuff won't have any value.
I'm going to go with an outburst. I'm so with you, Sophie, on a personal level. I won't speak for everyone or say it's a cosmic law, but I'm so into the idea that like we exist, therefore we matter. Everything that can be seen or perceived or named has inherent value, whether it's a goldfish or Hitler or whatever. It has value because it's teaching us something. It's in our perceptive field. It actually exists for some reason, even if it's maybe to transcend it or transmute it or to love it. I don't know. I'm not always like Mr. Flower hippie guy, but everything has value. What if everything actually has value? It means nothing has value in the old-fashioned way. Just everything has value. So let's just get over it. Everything has value if it's in our field of awareness. And if we put value, extra different value, our own unique slice of value on it, I'm actually down with that. But let's recognize that we're doing that as creators. For me, that's where preference comes in. Like I'm actually looking at this and this, and I'm saying this has more value than that. I don't know if that's not to me necessarily inherently bad or negative or detrimental, as long as I know I'm the meaning maker. I mean, that's where I come from. Like I'm the meaning maker of what has the value, so to say, more than the fact that just it's inherently valuable. For me, I think that's where we're going as far as the Star Brothers and Sisters and advanced civilizations, that you would have to have some perspective like that everything just has inherently value. And what are we going to do about it? Like, what are we going to love it? How are we going to love it? How are we going to co-create with it, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, that's a whole big, I love that conversation, Sophie. I think it's a red herring, personally. The value thing to me is a red herring. And it needs to be actually well inquired into with good spaciousness and people having the ability to share. Which I love about this community. Everyone's super receptive and respectful of everyone, even when they have different opinions or they feel somewhat triggered or whatever. This is an amazing community for that space. So if you want to relate back, Sophie, just on that or just for fun, I mean, since I kind of, you don't have to, I'm just saying since I kind of built on it. I mean,
I could go on for a long. Yeah, what makes it valuable? It makes it valuable because you have it and I don't. There's a huge aspect of value that makes it valuable because you have it and I don't, or you've been told that it's valuable. So I see it as an asserting power. Because what makes it valuable?
Right on. Thanks. All right. Anyone else want to say goodbye in whatever way they'd like?
I wanted to say something to Sophie. And it's not about arguing. It's not about disagreeing. It's just about sharing. So I hope she's open to this. Stuff. She started it. I know that I have stuff and people like my stuff and sometimes they want to share it. And sometimes they like it so much they want to keep it. Sometimes they take it without me even telling them they can have it. So we're always going to have stuff and we're always going to have problems with it. But is it useful? If it wasn't, we wouldn't have it, you know? I mean, stuff to me, God, you know, I've got way too much of it, of course, but Yeah, we're going to always have it and we're always going to share it. And I think maybe that's the answer. If we just shared the stuff, then everything would be fine. How about that?
Exactly. We identify. Where I was getting to with the value of it is as long as we identify with it, right? So if I identify with that, it becomes my identity. I have it and you don't. But that's where we get stuck and trapped, is we identify with it, and it doesn't. It doesn't belong to our identity.
There you go. No, wait, there she goes. The stuff is never ours anyways, because it was here before we got here. It'll be here when we're gone. So we just have to realize that the stuff is here to share, and we should make sure that everybody gets their share, and that'll be the end of it. I love you all. I'm not going to say any more today. I'll try not to anyways. And please invite me if you would like to see or hear from me. Next time, maybe I'll get a camera.
I just wanted to add that the Haida have a tradition that if someone comes up to you and says, "Ooh, Dana, I really like that flower in your hair," that you then gift the flower from your hair, or whatever it is that person has commented on, you take it off and you gift it. And I really love this. And I practiced this for a number of years when I was living with the tribe, that any jewelry or anything I had on, if someone came up to me and said, "Oh, Mel, I love your ring," and I said, "Oh, here you go," and I took it off and I would gift it to them. And there's something really healthy about letting go of our attachment to stuff that way. Thank you, Bret, very much. This was really inspiring, and everyone else for your lovely voices.
I would like to second that, Melissa, and agree with you 100% that we have to recognize that stuff is just that, stuff. And we have to recognize that the only thing we need to value in life from now on is each other. As simple as that, because all we have is each other. Stuff is just stuff. And thanks, Bret.
Word. Thank you. Anyone else? Last call. I'll leave it at that then. Thank you again, everyone, so much. I have to abruptly leave. What else can I say? Gratitude. Thank you. I love you all. Thank you so much.
Bret, thank you, brother. Thank you for another amazing program. My goodness, you inject life and love and inspiration into this program, and it would not be the same without you. And love you so much, brother. Keep coming back. Hey, we'll be here all day long, all night long on the 24-hour block party, so just keep coming back. It's all good.
All century long, all eon long.
All eon long, all universe long, all time long, and even when time is all ticked out, we'll still be going long.
Right on. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much, Bret.
Bye.
All righty. Well, we are close to 6 hours in to a 24-hour block party, which we have merged with the conversation. We are recording, we are live streaming, and I think I'm going to stop both right now just to kind of free up the space a little bit. Danny, I see you got your hand raised. So I'm going to go ahead and pause recording, and that way if anyone wants to append to the last recording, they'll be able to. Just ask me to. So pausing recording.